Chapter 1. 18 years later. On the 5th night, the king's soul collectors came to town. The air was so cold it hurt to breathe. The bits of blood Alaya had missed when hastily wiping her hands had turned to flimsy, frozen patterns of red lace against her skin, and she had to keep stopping herself from absently picking at them, from moving at all. There could be no movement yet. Just the sight of these monsters was enough to make her hands itch for the curved blade at her hip. But that wasn't part of the plan. She chanced a breath. That iciness in the air tickled and cut deeper into her throat. She distracted the cough trying to rise out of her by silently moving her lips, reciting wordless prayers to gods she had a hard time believing in on these collection nights. A third collector dismounted. The metal buckles of his boots rattled as his feet hit the ground, and Alaya felt it in her bones. She glanced at the dark windows of the Vel family's hut. She could still see the phantom trails of smoke in them, spiraling from candles hastily extinguished, and she swore she could still hear voices, too. Quiet, begging voices. No. Please, no. Don't let it be one of ours. But the information her team had gathered made Alaya certain it would be one of theirs, even though it was crushingly, desperately unfair. She had spent so many nights sleeping on the floor of that hut, and always on the nicest of the woven straw mats, because Papa and Mama Vel had insisted that orphans like her could be grand and celebrated guests just as well as anyone else. And so if anyone should be spared from the High King's cruel power games, she thought bitterly, it should be the ones inside of that hut. Though she wasn't certain why she still thought fairness had any place within this empire, when sightings of it were as rare as sightings of happy, well-fed people outside of High King Haben's inner circles. All three of the collectors still stood by their horses. Their faces were lifted to the west. Their clawed fingers clutched reins edged in the clan colors of rook and bone, silvery black, and the golden green of old bruises correspondingly. And Alaya regarded that hold with something like optimism. The collectors were hesitating at least. And after a moment, they took a few steps away from the hut. The wind was finally picking up again, and it seemed they had caught the scent of the blood she had helped spill. So at least something was going according to plan. The horses stood obediently where they had been tied, but they pawed at the ground and tossed their heads, the whites of their eyes wild and flashing in the moonlight. Alaya sized them up. She wondered if it was worth the risk to add thievery to her list of crimes against the High King tonight. The horses hadn't been part of that original plan, no. But she knew that both Papa Vel and his daughter Jira were good riders, and any horse that could carry a collector could certainly be swifter under the weight of only humans. The collectors were a solid 20 feet down the west path, and had slowed there, arguing amongst themselves. The sound of their voices, if one could call them voices, the way they hissed and snarled and spit, made Alaya want to reach for her weapon again. She settled instead for making the tiniest of adjustments to the mask she wore. One of the eye holes had slid down, and it partially obscured her vision, but she was too afraid to fix it completely. The moon had a bright, cruel glow about it tonight, and she worried that its light would catch on the mask's colorful threads and cause them to glisten and give her away. Another gust blew up from the west. It wrapped the collectors in a haze of dust and in what must have been an even more irresistible swirl of gory scent. Their arguing ceased. Their hunger for blood was overpowering their words, and more importantly, it was overpowering their orders, just as Alaya and the rest of her team had hoped it would.